Tonight, young workers terrorised in a fast food robbery rampage across Sydney's west. A win for Sydney drivers, ticketless parking fines to be made illegal. A Putney man loses his home of 40 years while on a quick trip to Bunnings. Under arrest after a failed assassination attempt. How a gunman lay in wait for 12 hours to take aim at Donald Trump. Inside the Murdoch succession stoush, Rupert's children head to court in a battle over his empire. A new coach, Jason Riles, arrives at Parramatta, how he plans to return the Eels to their glory days.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. Young workers have been terrorised during a one-man rampage across Sydney's west, targeting fast food restaurants. A masked robber hitting up 9 pizza and burger outlets from Bass Hill to Belfield, lashing out at employees and demanding they empty the till.
Arriving at Pizza Hut on 2 wheels and masked up, it was quick over the counter and straight out the back. 3 innocent workers backed into a corner, fear in their eyes, as the bandit unleashed his demands. The hooded man grabbing at one staff member before slapping the other. Giving into threats, they open the till. Before the intruder claws all the cash he can get, the men left pleading for the robber to leave the Chester Hill store. Police believe he's behind 9 robberies in a 2.5-week period, which saw Western Sydney fast food restaurants targeted, including 8 McDonald's from Bass Hill to Granville, Cullyville Ridge and Yagoona. On top of that, he's accused of trying his luck but failing to steal cash from this ATM during a break-in at Bankstown Central. Ismail Labouchmi is accused of being the man behind the mask, arrested in Greenacre on Friday, refused bail and behind bars. The 27-year-old's alleged crime spree no doubt left multiple employees traumatised. But what for? Police say he managed to get away with less than $5,000 during his alleged robbery rampage. The mental cost to his victims, though, so much more. This Pizza Hut now left implementing extra security measures, locking up late at night, customers asked to knock on the door. In Chester Hill, Madison Scott, 9 News.
The only thing worse than spotting a ticket on your car windscreen is finding out about a fine weeks later in the mail. The widely despised ticketless parking system will soon be illegal, with the government set to legislate against it this month.
A quick snap and you're stung at least $100, but you won't know until a letter arrives in the mail. Ticketless parking fines soon to be banned.
We will legislate to end secret parking fines.
The ticketless parking system was a mistake. It was a mistake from day one.
A mistake that has conveniently lined some council coffers. Under this system, there has been a 49% increase in total fines in the past year. 50 councils that used the ticketless model raked in $155 million last financial year. City of Sydney claiming the most, nearly $45 million, followed by Canterbury, Bankstown, Bayside, North Sydney and Randwick.
If there's councils out there that are relying on ticketless parking as a revenue stream, that'll have to end.
The proposed legislation will force council officers to issue an on-the-spot ticket or a card for every fine.
Yeah, you'll have to pay a fine, but we're not going to ping you over and over and over again before you even realise it.
The only exception if it is unsafe for the officer to do so.
We do think it's important that there is some flexibility allowed within the legislation, but we will require councils to collate this information and to report it to us.
Rangers will also need to take more photos of vehicles and signs, providing extra evidence to make it easier for drivers to appeal if they feel they've been unfairly fined. Councils will also need to report more data, and if there are problem hotspots with difficult or hidden signage, they'll be told to fix it.
If you're catching people over and over again on the same street, fix it.
Sophie Upcroft, 9 News.
A man's home of almost 40 years has been gutted by a mammoth fire, which threatened to engulf surrounding homes. Council had warned the owner about hoarding at the Putney property. Neighbours telling 9 News the fire was only a matter of time.
Too far gone, a Putney home swallowed by flames. Neighbours spotting the inferno just before 10:30 this morning, screaming and throwing sticks at windows, fearing the owner was still inside.
Hello?
But owner John Leith had just ducked out to Bunnings.
When I got the call, I saw a guy in the lift. I said, mate, I've just been told my house is on fire. Would you mind giving me a lift?
Almost 40 firefighters responded to the Ida Street home, a mammoth fuel load both inside and out, making access virtually impossible.
The fire itself was so fierce and the fuel load so extreme that we were only able to extinguish it for externally.
It was something that we've been waiting for happen, I think, in the street, like plenty of stuff there, unfortunately.
When I got up this morning, I didn't turn the toaster on, didn't turn the kettle on.
Crews spent close to 5 hours dousing the flames and protecting 8 neighbouring properties which had to be evacuated. John's home of close to 40 years destroyed.
What was it like seeing it this morning up in flames like that?
Oh, I just couldn't really believe it, you know. It's just something that you think it wouldn't happen to me.
The cause of the fire is not yet known and won't be for some time. What's left of the home is not structurally sound, making it all the more difficult for fire investigators.
In Putney, Hayley Francis, 9 News.
4 men were arrested this morning for their alleged roles in kidnapping, torturing and shooting 2 men at Claymore last month. The men, all aged in their 20s, are accused of forcing the victims into a ute at gunpoint, hitting them with a hammer before shooting them.
Some of these males were acting as almost guns for hire. It's almost like a air tasker for violent criminals.
Both victims survived, police making the arrests after raids at Catherine Field, Bradbury, Oran Park and Eagle Vale. Chilling new details have emerged about the second attempt on Donald Trump's life. Suspect Ryan Wesley Routh stalked the scene beforehand, cell data revealing that he was lying in wait for nearly 12 hours. The former president today revealing his version of events.
Keep walking!
Shuffling backwards with his hands behind his head. This is the moment would-be assassin Ryan Routh was taken into custody.
It was probably the highest profile stop this sheriff's office has ever made.
And a day after targeting one of the highest profile people in America, Routh found himself shackled in a Florida courthouse, the 58-year-old occasionally smiling. He's facing federal gun charges, including possession of a firearm while a convicted felon and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. Neither charge related to Donald Trump, but that will come.
Our FBI's Honolulu and Charlotte field offices have initiated interviews of several family members, friends, and former colleagues of the subject.
The former president breaking his silence with an interview on X.
All of a sudden we heard shots being fired in the air, and I guess probably 4 or 5. And it sounded like bullets, but what do I know about that? But Secret Service knew immediately it was bullets. And they grabbed me. I was with an agent, and the agent did a fantastic job. There was no question that we were off that course. I would have loved to have sank that last putt, but we decided, well, let's get out of here.
Trump International Golf Course remains a crime scene. The Secret Service acting director assuring Trump he has the highest level of protection.
This is the perimeter of Donald Trump's golf course. You can see that taped off area with investigators. It's around 100 metres down the road. That is where this gunman lie waiting. And thanks to his phone data, we now know that Ryan Routh may have been there for up to 12 hours.
But he never got a glimpse of Trump, not even close.
The subject, who did not have line of sight to the former president, fled the scene. He did not fire or get off any shots at our agent.
Trump has joked privately that the incident had interrupted a great round of golf, that he was too under par. But publicly, and without evidence, the former president took aim at his political rivals for putting his life in danger. He believed the rhetoric of Biden and Harris and he acted on it. Their rhetoric is causing me to be shot at. Trump later spoke to Joe Biden on the phone. The White House says it was a cordial conversation where the president conveyed his relief that he is safe.
The left needs to tone down the rhetoric and needs to cut this crap out. Somebody's going to get hurt by it.
2 assassination attempts in 2 months won't slow Trump down. His planned rally in Michigan going ahead tomorrow. The Secret Service must navigate his hectic schedule in a race to the White House that has been defined by anger and threats.
We need to get out of a reactive model and get to a readiness model.
In West Palm Beach, Florida, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
Talk is cheap. Houses are not. Yet tonight there are more conversations and less construction coming out of Canberra. The government's latest attempt at new housing laws stuck in the Senate as new figures show there are fewer properties available to rent.
In the Red House, housing policy gets the red light.
There being 21 ayes and 38 noes, the matter is resolved in the negative.
Labor's Help to Buy scheme that would see the government provide financial support for 10,000 first-home buyers a year, paid back when the property sells, stalled by the Senate.
And low and middle incomes to get into the housing market when they would otherwise have Buckley's chance of doing it on their own. Now, who could argue with such a scheme?
Delay this bill for a couple of months and come and talk to the Greens.
Their demands tonight, rent caps and an end to negative gearing tax breaks in return for support.
Will you take this opportunity to be clear and to rule out any future changes to negative gearing?
Our housing policy is clear. It does not include the tax changes that you reference.
New home sales fell in August.
So, congratulations.
And it got harder to rent. Tonight, new data from SQM Research shows the total number of rental vacancies in our capital cities falling from 39,701 in July to 39,665 in August, just 1.3% of the market.
An ordinary person with an ordinary job should be able to afford an ordinary home of their own, whether to rent or to buy.
The cost of housing is the number one contributor to the cost of living, which is the number one issue for Australian voters. Tonight, the Prime Minister not ruling out a double disillusion election to send Australians to the polls all over housing.
Well, we'll wait and see.
To use the Minister's phrase, there's Buckley's chance of that. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
Rapper and producer Sean Diddy Coombs has been taken into federal custody in New York. He has long been the target of a sex trafficking investigation, but his lawyer says he has nothing to hide.
For months, Sean Diddy Coombs has been the target of an aggressive sex trafficking probe. Now today,
some major breaking news to tell you about. Sean P. Diddy Coombs has been arrested.
The hip-hop mogul was arrested in Manhattan by federal agents. Plagued by scandal, the 54-year-old had been hit with 10 lawsuits in 10 months. Earlier this year, this surveillance video surfaced of Combs violently shoving, kicking and dragging then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a Los Angeles hotel.
He's a monster. He's literally a monster.
He is an imperfect person, but he is not a criminal, said his lawyer, adding he voluntarily relocated to New York last week in anticipation of these charges. These are the acts of an innocent man with nothing to hide. The US Attorney for the Southern District of New York says he will move to unseal the indictment tomorrow. Combs has repeatedly denied all allegations, calling them sickening. In the United States, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Fallen TV star Andrew O'Keefe has been slammed by a Sydney magistrate, saying he's lucky to be alive after a drug overdose on the weekend. The 52-year-old faced Waverley Court for possessing the drug ice and breaching bail, where he was labelled a frequent flyer who'd failed previous attempts at rehabilitation.
It would be inappropriate to comment at this stage. That's all we can say. You heard the magistrate's comments. You've heard the date that it's gone over to.
O'Keefe didn't apply for bail. He'll remain in custody until at least the 10th of October. A holiday in Australia is getting more expensive in the wake of Rex and Bonza's demise. New government research has found airfares have soared as competition evaporates.
Less competition, higher prices. This is a reality Australians are familiar with.
It always happens. When there's a third player in the industry, prices go down. When they exit, prices go up. Been going on 30 years.
Regional Express stopped flying in and out of capital cities in July. By August, prices had already jumped, according to federal government data. Former ACCC Chair Alan Fells says competition between Qantas and Virgin simply isn't fierce enough to keep prices down.
They have a somewhat cosy duopoly.
The Bureau of Infrastructure and Transport Index shows a 12.5% spike in the cost of the cheapest airfares since July. That means travellers could go from paying $150 to $170 for cheaper fares and from $350 to $400 for more expensive fares. Major airlines take issue with the snapshot data. Qantas saying in a statement, the BITRE report does not represent average fares which customers are paying, but Flight Centre CEO Graham Turner provides his own data, saying however you slice it, customers are paying more.
It is a fact, and there's no doubt that the domestic airfares now are higher than they were 12 months ago. Anywhere from in economy, 7 to 14% we've noticed in the last few months.
And other fees are now creeping higher too. In 3 weeks, Qantas will hike the cost of changing flight details from $99 to $119. That's a move that stands in contrast with what's happening in more competitive markets like the US, where major airlines have mostly scrapped those types of charges.
But in the softer Australian market, you can impose those extra charges.
With 2 airlines bowing out this year, Australians are taking what they can get. Chris Kohler, 9 News.
A man has died after falling down a disused mine shaft in the Hunter. Emergency services have been at the site since about 12:45 this afternoon at Ellalong near Cessnock, trying to recover the body. Initial investigations suggest it could be a workplace accident. A warning tonight ahead of vital testing at Warragamba Dam. Those who live downstream of the dam should stay away from fast-moving or deep water from early Thursday morning. The testing will see the side radial gates opened up for several 15-minute intervals between 7 in the morning and lunchtime. Media mogul Rupert Murdoch is locked in a real-life succession battle to settle which of his children will take over his empire. The 93-year-old Australian fighting it out behind closed doors in a US court as he looks to future-proof his legacy.
It could well be the real-life finale of the TV hit show Succession. Media mogul Rupert Murdoch climbing out of an SUV with wife number 5. His favoured son Lachlan not far behind. Then came another 3 of his children, Elizabeth, Prudence and James, locked in a battle over the succession plan for their father's empire. And we've seen this before in the award-winning series which follows a rich family at war.
Everything I've done in my life, I've done for my children.
Siblings fighting for control.
I think I'm the best option.
Oh, right, because you like playing boss?
In the Nevada courtroom, the 93-year-old wants the final say on what happens to his beloved news organisations when he dies.
Is your son Lachlan the natural heir apparent?
Well, I've got another son and a daughter, and we'll have to see how they work it out. I hope not fight it out.
That was 1995, and the fight is now on. Rupert wants to amend the family trust to ensure Lachlan retains control of his media companies, blocking his 3 less conservative siblings from joining forces and stripping Lachlan of power. There are good reasons this battle is not being fought in a courtroom here in Australia or Great Britain. Cases in Reno, Nevada are held in private and the evidence is kept secret. The TV series had a blockbuster ending.
You want this enough to go to war with your family.
The Murdoch episode is still being written. Damien Ryan, 9 News.
Let's get our first check of the day's weather. Good evening, Kate.
Good evening, Pete. It was a stunning spring day. Clear blue skies with a light breeze. A little chilly this morning. The city dipping to 9 degrees, warming up in the sunshine, reaching 22 just after lunch, which is a couple of degrees above average. Our west also climbing to a top of 22 degrees. Temperatures are set to soar from tomorrow as warm west-northwesterly winds sweep across the city. I'll let you know how long the warm spell will last after sport. Pete.
Kate, thank you. Sydney rail services slashed. You'll have to check your timetable with a major shake-up coming to multiple lines. The details next. The new player in the weight loss game forcing Weight Watchers to shed staff. The tragic final message from the Titan sub before it imploded, killing all on board. And bring back the music, a funding lifeline given for festivals. A major shake-up could be coming to Sydney's train timetables under a leaked draft proposal. 4 services an hour could be cut on the T1 North Shore line between Hornsby and Central in peak periods, while 2 services per hour may be cut during peak on the T1 Western line between St Mary's and Central. The government says any changes made will reflect demand at different times.
In a net sense, there'll be an increase to services across metropolitan Sydney. If there's a specific change, it might be to add more services at the 7 o'clock peak rather than the 8 o'clock, but we haven't finalised it yet.
Changes could come into effect on October 20. At least 16 people have been killed in floods across Europe, and authorities warn the worst is still ahead. The devastating rain has already brought heartbreak to several countries as wildfires engulf other parts of the continent.
Fires and floods. The weather has turned deadly and disastrous in Europe. Storm Boris swallowing up parts of Poland, Austria, Romania, the Czech Republic, Hungary and Slovakia. As the water begins to subside in some areas, have a look at what's left behind. Historic, beautiful places, painted in mud, covered in wreckage as the death toll grows. Rescue efforts are ongoing to try and get people to safety as thousands are unable to go home and others remain missing. Houses, cars, roads and bridges washed away. Authorities are warning the worst may not be over as river levels continue to rise in some areas. While in Portugal, rain would be welcome as wildfires rage across the country, claiming lives and homes. The flames fanned by strong winds, leaving drivers on what looked like the highway to hell. A Russia-controlled region of Ukraine also unable to escape the extreme weather, with wildfires there killing several people. In London, Hannah Sinclair, 9 News.
All good here. That was one of the final messages from the crew of the Titan submersible before it imploded, killing all 5 crew members in June last year. A 2-week hearing into the fatal incident is underway in the United States to determine what happened and prevent similar tragedies. The Coast Guard also releasing this image of the Titan sitting on the sea floor. Spectacular scenes in Houston, Texas, as a gas explosion in a pipeline sent flames towering over neighbourhoods. 1,000 homes were evacuated and those at nearby schools were told to shelter as thick black smoke smothered the area. It's believed a vehicle drove through a fence and knocked a valve, causing the blast. TikTok's lawyers have gone head-to-head with the US Justice Department over a new law that could ban the social media platform for its 170 million American users. The US believes the Chinese ownership of TikTok poses a national security threat. TikTok says a ban would be a violation of the First Amendment and an overreach of the Constitution. A 3-judge panel is tonight considering their arguments. Weight Watchers is shedding staff in Australia. The business will no longer have in-person and online meetings with clients and will instead push people towards its website and app. In February, long-time Ambassador Oprah Winfrey walked away from Weight Watchers, endorsing weight loss drugs such as Ozempic. Local rival Jenny Craig collapsed last year. Highway drama, innocent drivers caught up in the arrest of an alleged kidnapper. Also coming up, the ultimate fall from grace for one of the world's most recognisable faces. There's a bear in there and a hiker as well. An influencer's daring stunt. And we fell in love with Brody a year ago. Now the cruel twist that's taken him and his horse out of the arena. Police in Queensland have arrested one of the state's most wanted fugitives in dramatic scenes on the Sunshine Coast. Anthony Sebastian Oliver allegedly forced a woman into a car before taking off, later trying to steal another before police moved in, making their arrest on the Bruce Highway. A number of drivers were caught up in the mayhem, their tyres punctured when police deployed road spikes in a desperate attempt to end the chase. The man who announced the death of the Queen to the world has been sentenced for making indecent images of children. Hugh Edwards was once a respected BBC presenter, a magistrate telling him that his reputation was now in tatters.
Dressed in a cardigan and dragging a suitcase, Hugh Edwards stares down cameras, walking into court to learn his fate. After 4 decades of delivering the world news at the BBC...
A few moments ago, Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
The 63-year-old is now the headline, his mugshot released for the world to see. Edwards pleaded guilty in July to making indecent images of children. The court told it was in 2018 the journalist was randomly contacted by a uni student on Instagram. The Mail sent Edwards 377 images on WhatsApp, 41 of them explicit pictures and videos of children, some believed to be as young as 7. The broadcaster sent the now convicted pedophile cash gifts. The magistrate declared the man, who was once one of the most recognisable faces on TV, was vulnerable to an attack in prison, sparing him jail time. Instead, given a 6-month suspended sentence, he'll be put on the sex offenders register. Inside the courtroom, Hugh Edwards said that he was very sorry and regrets his actions, but outside, in front of his colleagues, well, he's got nothing to say. A shocking fall from grace now complete, the magistrate telling Edwards his reputation is in tatters. In London, Jessica Maward, 9 News.
Security has been beefed up at the border between Morocco and the Spanish enclave of Ceuta after hundreds attempted to illegally migrate into Europe. Young Moroccans scaled barbed wire fences following calls on social media for a mass migration attempt. At least 60 people were arrested for using online platforms to incite the move. There's a bear in there and an influencer as well. This man getting a little too close for comfort while hiding out in a bear's den in Serbia. The grizzly can be seen climbing down the hole towards the influencer, having a sniff of his head. Oh, the 31-year-old escaped unharmed. Music festivals across the state will receive 2 years of emergency funding assistance under a government plan to save them, with an initial allocation of $3 million. It will also be easier for organisers to stage all-age music events. The Australian Festivals Association saying the changes signal an end to the war on music festivals. Last year we introduced you to 12-year-old Brody and his horse Promise. The pair cleaning up at Western Sydney competitions and turning heads on social media in the process. But in a sad twist, Brody has now been banned from competing.
12-year-old Brody Pankhurst's a busy kid.
Ruby, come here. Ruby.
His horse, Ruby, is a little high maintenance. Every day at their Horsley Park property, she's exercised, pampered, sprayed, brushed, and don't forget about lunch. But the high life is for a good reason. Together, the pair are competitors, hoping to test themselves against the best at local show events.
Gives me something to do because I can't do other sports.
But in a cruel twist, he's been stopped from competing in this sport as well.
A bit sad.
His mother, Mel, claims he's been banned by the governing body, the New South Wales Arabian Horse Association. There are new rules. No wheeled vehicles are allowed, and all competitors must wear helmets.
Obviously, his wheelchair with his setup, he can't wear a helmet because of the supports.
Brody has Duchenne muscular dystrophy. The condition makes him weak, and he's only getting weaker. Doctors say he's not expected to live past 30.
It's heartbreaking. He's a 12-year-old boy. Let him go out and do what he loves.
Mel says the reason she's been given is for the safety of other horses and competitors. 9 News contacted the New South Wales Arabian Horse Association for an explanation, but haven't heard back. The fight to have Brody and Ruby compete again is taking a heavy toll. Mel claims that her sister and her daughter have been banned from entering any competitions run by this statewide group. In an email, Mel's hoping to enter her daughter into a show, but the response is only if all legal proceedings are dropped. Mel wants to drop it, but only if Brody can compete.
Just gives me a little bit more fun to do.
In Horsley Park, Alex Heinke, 9 News.
Tickets are selling fast for this weekend's NRL semi-finals at Allianz Stadium. Supporter bays for the Sharks and Cowboys match on Friday and the Roosters Manly game on Saturday have sold out, with only single tickets available in some other categories. Both matches will be live on 9. All the way from Tasmania to Cecil Hills, parts of a jigsaw ready to be placed over live traffic, transforming your trip on the M7. A gender row explodes at a popular golf club. Why a male player was suspended after dressing like a woman. Those stories after sport with Roz. The pressure to perform is immense for Nicho Hynes.
Pete, another finals failure has the Sharks star under the pump. There have even been calls for his axing. We'll hear Nicho's response to that next. New Eels coach Jason Riles reveals his plan to return Parramatta to premiership glory. And the AFL Premiership Cup visits Sydney. Will the Swans lift it at the MCG next week?
It's going to get much warmer over the next few days, and our fire danger rating is also expected to increase. I'll let you know how warm it will get shortly.
Nicho Hynes has tackled criticism of his finals form head-on, acknowledging he's fallen short in the big moments. But he's confident he's the man to end Cronulla's finals drought, out to prove he belongs on rugby league's biggest stages.
The spotlight always shines brightly on Nicho Hynes, but after another finals loss, it's become blinding.
I've just tried to avoid it as much as I can. I've got to really focus on what this team needs from me, and my team needs me present.
Hynes unaware of calls for him to be dropped for the semi-final against the Cowboys.
The only time I'm ever really talking about it or hearing about it is when I'm talking to you guys. Right now, I don't care.
The playmaker at peace with the onslaught of external criticism.
It's going to come. It's going to keep coming for the rest of my career. It's going to keep coming during the week, and yeah, look, it is what it is. It's just the position I'm in. I just got to embrace every moment of being the halfback of this club.
But admits he isn't the only Shark who's falling short of expectations.
A single player might win a big moment, but you need a team effort to win a premiership.
Cronulla's $1 million man determined to prove his doubters wrong.
It's going to turn out at some point. There's going to be a moment where I'm going to nail, and we'll have fun doing it, and I'll be smiling after it. All I want to do is prove to my family and my friends and my team that I belong in this arena.
Those teammates don't need much convincing.
I don't understand how one man can cop flack for an entire team's performance. I think Nicho's the most mindful thinker in our team, to be honest. He does more work than anyone on his mental aspect, and he's so tough mentally to get up every week, no matter what's written about him.
One thing they all agree on, the Sharks' inability to perform in the finals is wearing thin.
I'd love to just get the monkey off the back, because it is definitely on there, I think.
Nicole Dunn, 9 News.
Harry Grant is relishing his role as the only finals captain still in action in Melbourne across 2 codes, as the Storm enjoy a week off before hosting a preliminary final.
There's only the Geelong Cats left, so hopefully we can give the Melbournians something to talk about too. Switch over to some rugby league for the next couple of weeks.
The Storm face the winner of Saturday's clash between the Roosters and Sea Eagles. Jason Riles wants to bring a winning culture back to Parramatta by having an open-door policy at the club for Eels greats. The new coach today gave his thoughts on the club's current stars, Mitchell Moses and Clint Gutherson.
This is our first look at Jason Riles as an Eel. It was his destiny to be part of the club.
This is actually the first time I put a shirt on, so it's. But as a kid, I was a Parramatta supporter up until I was about 12.
That's why the past is a key element of his strategy to create a future at the title-starved club. The door is open to club legends.
The more they can be involved, the better. Connecting with those guys, that's a real big part of my cultural vision. I want them to feel like they can just walk in off the street and just come and be a part of what we're doing, as long as they don't get in the way in the drills.
After a long apprenticeship, Riles is not afraid to say he may not be prepared.
I don't think you're actually ever ready, and I've spoke to Craig Fitzgibbon and Cameron Serrato about their transition into it, and it's pretty much you can do as much as you can to prepare yourself, but until you get into the chair, it's you're going to start learning again.
He's going to need to deal with some big issues. There's been speculation Mitch Moses wants out. Riles was pumped by what he saw from Moses for the Blues.
It was very exciting, both as his future coach and then also as a supporter of the Blues, and to see him personally perform the way he did on such a big stage. So again, it's it's an exciting opportunity to work with him.
And when it comes to Clint Gutherson, there's talk of losing the leadership and a positional switch. His short-term future at the club is safe.
Immediately, he's a big part of the plans. Obviously, he's one of the biggest effort players in the whole competition. I've been a bit of an admirer of his for a long time now.
Danny Weidler, 9 News.
Brodie Grundy went from AFL superstar to reserve grade ruckman and back again, saying his move to Sydney saved his career. A key part of the Swans' charge this season, he's using his reinvigorated outlook to finally claim that elusive Premiership Cup.
The holy grail of the AFL, idolised by kids at Barton Ridge. And Swans champion Ryan O'Keefe.
A bit of nostalgia there, sort of looked at it, brought some pretty good memories. Picking up the cup, got the tingles.
He was the Norm Smith medalist in 2012, the last time Sydney won the premiership.
What do you like about this current team? They just keep going. When they're behind, they'll keep coming.
At the core of that, Brodie Grundy, a superstar at Collingwood, then an outcast at Melbourne. He says his switch to Sydney is already a success.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying myself and feeling like, I'm being the best version of myself.
The two-time All-Australian came within a kick of winning the 2018 flag, but it isn't heartbreak that's fueling this finals campaign, it's happiness.
I found, that I'm smiling again and really feeling reinvigorated. That was a big driving factor around, the move is, not wanting to die with the music still in me,
That approach has almost led Grundy back to this, the AFL Premiership Cup. As one of the most experienced players in a relatively inexperienced squad, he says the key to claiming it is simple.
My advice to the broader team and my younger self, just smell the roses, because you really don't know what's around the corner, and I'm certainly doing that this time around.
Sam Jordan, 9 News.
After their Argentinian humiliation, the Wallabies admit they'll need to put in an 80-minute effort against the All Blacks at Accor Stadium on Saturday.
We want to pour all our attention into us delivering our system over and over again as much as we can. Because as you said, delivering that for 40 isn't good enough. You've got to be doing that for 80.
The Wallabies need to win on Saturday to prevent the Kiwis keeping the Bledisloe Cup for the 22nd straight year. They're certainly due, Pete.
Good on you, Ross. Thank you. Next in 9 News, why Camden could become Boomtown with every development application approved. The giant piece of equipment set to transform your trip on the M7, and the golfer suspended from his club after dressing as a woman. A gender row has erupted at one of Victoria's top golf clubs after a male member dressed like a woman to make a statement on cheaper fees for female players. The man wore a golf skirt and a wig when he presented to the 13th Beach Golf Links reception
I'm
desk.
identifying as a female now, and I'm just about to inquire about the new membership deal.
Okay. The member and the man who filmed the stunt have now both been suspended from the club. A new $1 billion interchange is rising above one of Sydney's busiest motorways. And 9 News has been given exclusive access, with the race on to deliver the crucial link between the M7 and the M12 in time for the opening of the new airport.
70 tonnes loaded up at Launceston, shipped to the mainland, then on the road to Western Sydney. This giant steel Meccano piece is called a launch nose, allowing workers at Cecil Hills to construct a bridge without ever stopping traffic on the M7 or Elizabeth Drive.
In most cases, you won't even notice that the bridge has been launched overhead.
The two bridges will eventually form part of an interchange connecting the M7 to the future M12, heading to Western Sydney Airport.
We're standing on what's going to become the future M12, albeit another 3 or 4 metres above us.
Transurban also widening the M7 to add an extra lane in both directions for 26 kilometres between the M5 and Richmond Road. 41 bridges upgraded along the way.
About 189,000 trips are taken every day on the M7 alone, so it's an extremely busy corridor.
Tolls on the M7 extended for an extra 3 years to pay for it to 2051. but the M12 will be free from day one.
But drivers will have to be patient with the speed limit reduced on part of the M7 as work continues 6 days a week. The goal to finish towards the end of 2026.
Adding pressure is ongoing industrial action from the Electrical Trades Union.
Yes, it's tight, but I mean, we're pretty comfortable.
The success of Sydney's future airport depends on it. In Cecil Hills, Annalise Bolt, 9 News.
The little-known Libertarian Party is vowing to turn Camden into Boomtown by approving every development application and slashing public servants. The party is set to win 2 seats on Camden Council and is confident it can win 2 more, giving it the balance of power and the chance to pursue its policy of radical growth. To finance and fresh record highs have been cracked on the market, while all eyes are now focused on the world's biggest central bank. Here's Chris Kohler.
At 4 a.m. on Thursday, Eastern Standard Time, we'll have a decision from the Federal Reserve about interest rates in the world's biggest economy. And the market predicts there's a good chance the Fed will slash 0.5% off its version of the cash rate. That'd signal a major shift for the global economy and add at least some pressure for a cut here in Australia too. The Aussie dollar is up a full US cent in value in the last week, and if a big cut happens, it might go higher. As for the share market, fresh record intraday highs were hit today. A big part of that has been Commonwealth Bank. Its shares are up 26% so far this year. BHP, on the other hand, is trading below $40 as the price of iron ore drifts lower this year. And it could keep that up. CBA analysts today theorised that $80 a tonne might be in the future for Australia's most important export.
Thank you, Chris. Let's look at the price of unleaded across Sydney tonight. The average is sitting at $1.73.7 a litre. You can find it cheaper at Granville, located on Blacksall Street. Petrol also cheap on Marion Street, Leichhardt. Grinning from ear to ear as she walked into Brisbane Airport today, 3-time Paralympic medalist Alexa Leary is back on home soil after a well-deserved holiday. The Queensland Golden Girl admitting her Paris achievements are still sinking in, but her dad almost lost her bag at an airport.
It's a speed demon, just, you know what, goes and puts it somewhere else. Everyone walks away, leaves it there. And then I was crying. I was like, where's my bag?
You know, 2 gold medals, all the stuff in it. I was dead.
Ask dads. The star swimmer now has her sights on breaking the world record again at the World Championships next year. Coming up in the news, Kate with our weather.
Hello again. It's expected to remain clear and dry over the next few days. The temperature warming up too, with gusty winds putting firefighters on alert. Right now in the city, it is 15 degrees, the same in our west. The forecast is next. It was a beautiful sunny day with clear skies and light winds. A little chilly this morning as we stepped out the door. The temperature dropping to just 3 degrees at Richmond and Katoomba, 4 degrees at Campbelltown and 9 in the city. Fortunately, it warmed up quickly in the sunshine, most suburbs reaching 22 or 23 degrees. Bronte was looking spectacular in the sun this afternoon, although not the best surf conditions. The southerly swell we've been experiencing is expected to ease from tomorrow. A cold front will bring winds and rain to Tasmania and Victoria tomorrow, as well as damaging and gusty winds to our state. Brisbane will be partly cloudy, 25 degrees, dry but windy in Canberra, 19, sunny ahead of a late shower for Melbourne, 20, and sunshine for Adelaide and Perth too. Damaging winds are expected to develop about the Snowy Mountains and Great Dividing Range from early tomorrow, with gusts of around 90 kilometres an hour forecast, while a strong marine wind warning is in place for the Illawarra and Batemans Bay. Temperature-wise, Wollongong is expected to reach 25 degrees, 27 in Newcastle. Tomorrow will be warmer than today in Sydney, dry and sunny with west-northwesterly winds. After an overnight low of 9, the city is expected to reach a top of 26 degrees, which is about 6 degrees above average for September. There's also a high fire danger rating for Sydney and the Illawarra due to warm, dry and gusty conditions being produced by that cold front crossing Victoria. Our suburbs will be warm too, 27 at Blacktown and Richmond, 26 in Parramatta, Kellyville and in Campbelltown, and 25 at Cronulla and in Bondi. Looking ahead to Thursday, remaining warm, 27 degrees. That's when we'll see extreme fire danger as wind speeds increase. In fact, temperatures look like they'll stay in the mid-20s from Friday right through until the weekend. Overnight temperatures warming up too. Nights between 11 and 14 degrees forecast. Taking a look at our west, still cool in the morning, but daytime temperatures are remaining above average. 26 degrees for Thursday, 25 on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And while we could do with some rain, it doesn't look like we're going to get any for at least the next week, Pete.
All right, Kate, thank you. Ali is next with the current affair. That is 9 News for this Tuesday. I'm Peter Overton. I hope you have a good evening. From all of us, good night.